I'm Sarah.
And I'm Sean.
And this is our renovation story.
I just love the whole experience of living here and how it caters so well to our lifestyle. I never want to leave. This is my vacation now. Before we bought this house, we were living in a little area in Atlanta called Virginia Highlands, and it was 500 square feet. And that was where we moved in together.
So originally it was Sarah who had the condo downtown while I was working all along the East Coast in various factories. I was working my way back down to Atlanta to be close to Sarah. Mid-pandemic, I left my manufacturing job, came down to Atlanta, moved into the 500 square foot condo with Sarah and her 2 cats, and joined my family small business in residential home construction up in the Milton area.
He was commuting an hour and a half each way, getting out of the city and then coming back after work.
I like to think that I'm a good driver, but ultimately the nerves are going to overwhelm anybody at some point.
Yeah, he was pretty fried at the end of the day.
We ended up trying to find a place that was both a little bit more spacious to stretch out and not be stepping all over each other's toes, but also wouldn't be bumper to bumper traffic for 3 hours of my day every single day.
We started looking for a house in 2020.
So mid-pandemic, here we are in the middle of both the global pandemic, but also one of the craziest housing bubbles that we've experienced, at least in the last decade or so. We actually took a map of where she was working, where I was working, and then found the exact midpoint, and that's where we started on Roswell, where we are now.
It was really important to find a house that was surrounded by nature because I love to run. We love to go on walks together. We love kayaking, which we can do in the lake out back now. And especially when looking during the pandemic, we were craving that proximity to the outdoors, and this checked all of the boxes for us.
This home in particular came on the market on a Thursday afternoon, and by Friday, they were planning on having an open house. So come open house time, we see 16 to 25 cars lining the street with people clamoring to get a look inside. I'm sure we weren't the only ones to recognize the charm that this home had. We're looking at each other like there's no chance, there's no way we're going to be the lucky ones to end up with it, but let's put in our offer.
You cannot find a spot like this so close to the city, on the lake. Even in this neighborhood, there aren't that many houses like this, and so we immediately knew we needed to jump on it.
There were 16 offers on the home over the course of a weekend.
Even though the bidding war was super intense, the inside could definitely use some love. Green shag carpets, original 1970s fixtures, floral wallpaper everywhere. It was a time capsule. We were thankful that Sean happens to work in the industry, and so we knew that we could make it our dream home.
We've heard it not once, but a couple of times that this looks a lot like the Brady Bunch house. And so we really wanted to keep the charm and the mid-century modern aesthetic. We just wanted to give it a facelift. So a lot of the home and exterior is original.
We painted the brick, we painted the board and batten, and that was actually a really intense process trying to figure out what would look nice. I did a lot of mock-ups to make sure that the colors were going to complement and have the right amount of contrast, because once you paint a house, it's painted. In the back, we used the framing of the original deck to build a brand new deck.
We had my dad, again, being a home builder, was able to come over on his weekends and spend time with us and actually walk us through or work with us as we rebuilt the deck over the course of several weekends. Needless to say, we really did put some sweat equity into the renovation of our home, which really helped both with the cost, but helps us appreciate the home so much more that we now live in.
This is our backyard. We painted the exterior, both the brick and the board and batten. And then we totally redid the landscaping. The exterior renovations back here are the windows. We actually raised the pitch of the roof so that we could fit these 7-foot windows. We wanted them to be as big as possible.
The biggest advantage to this particular home is that lake view. And at the time, we only had a split fogged up window in the corner of the living room, and the rest of this back wall was brick solid. Couldn't see out. So that was number one on our list. Number two was to really take out some of the interior walls that were chopping the space up and making the home feel smaller than it really is.
In the inspection, we knew that there was lead paint and there was asbestos in the ceiling. And because we wanted to tear out walls and we wanted to cover up the tiled ceiling, we were going to have to encounter both of those things.
It cost quite a bit of money and time because we had to hire a professional crew that would essentially look like they were dressed in hazmat suits that had the right PPE in order to come in and remove the entirety of the sheetrock from the home.
Before, we had a wall separating the living and dining space from the kitchen. And so we did take out that wall and put in a beam to support the roof, and we wrapped it in hardwood that matches the hardwood that we have on the floor.
Usually hardwoods are a rather expensive part of a home, but we were able to find a supplier that had a bunch of extras left over from other projects. And essentially, we told them, hey, give us all your scraps, give us all your remnants, and make a collage. Installing that all together, sanding it, and then staining it all the same. And so even though there are different widths and different sizes and lengths, you really wouldn't notice it because it's got the consistent stain throughout.
So I think it gives the floor a lot more character. It feels a little bit eclectic, and especially when wrapping the beam, having the different widths of board makes it visually a lot more interesting. Behind us, we created a dining space that is very integrated into the living space and the kitchen. And so it feels very, very open, and we can see our backyard from anywhere on this floor.
Best part is that all of the spaces are connected. I can be in the kitchen, Sean can be in the family room, and it still feels like we're spending time together.
In the original home, we had a shotgun window U-shaped kitchen on one side of the room, and we had a small breakfast area on the other. And now we removed that shotgun window, opened up this space, and transformed it into one kitchen that was functional for a group or gathering of people in the kitchen at the same time.
Everything in the kitchen is new except for the windows. We did design the layout so that we could keep the original windows. I loved picking out the fixtures in here. It's kind of where I started, and I expanded from what I picked in the kitchen. The hood was something that I was particularly excited about. It is custom, and I wanted it to be as neutral and as subtle as possible, but still it has a really nice finish to it. I wanted to pick out a neutral tile that still had some texture to it and would play really nicely with the marble. And so that's how we landed on this backsplash here. We have this massive island that we really enjoy both cooking on and entertaining with. And we have this waterfall countertop, which is something I was super excited about. This is a leathered marble that we found as a remnant. So it had been pre-cut, and we were able to repurpose it for our kitchen. And so all of the marble that you see in here was found that way. The kitchen before did not have a pantry, and so we have this pocket pantry here with some storage that is easily accessible but easy to hide away when we have guests over.
So it's not an accident, actually, that all the paint colors and all of the decorative elements of the home are so neutral, because really what we want to do is draw the eye and draw all of your attention out to the magic that's happening in the back of the house.
And all of the colors that we have used are very intentional. So we have a splash of green on the island, inspired by all the green that you see out the window. But there are a lot of neutrals to highlight those pops of color and everything happening in our backyard.
The next challenge that we wanted to undertake was the primary suite.
And this is our primary bedroom.
Before we renovated it was one large open room, and it contained both the primary bed, but also the primary bath in the same room. They were one and the same. And so while one person may be laying in the bed, they could see into the primary bath and even wave as someone was on the toilet.
We totally reimagined the space. This is the original fireplace. We took off the mantle to make it a little bit more modern and painted it the same color as the exterior of the home. In the original home, there were some flimsy shelves on either side of the fireplace, so we ended up putting in these built-ins for some extra storage, and then some really beautiful floating shelves for decoration. So there's another beam in the master bed that's very similar to the beam downstairs, and we wrapped it exactly the same way to create a nice consistency throughout the home. We had to sacrifice a bedroom in order to create the space for our primary bath.
Yeah, so with the addition of our new interior wall, we were able to create the separation of both the primary bed, and now we can go into the primary bath.
Everything in here is brand new. It did not exist before.
It's one of my favorite places in the house. It's so relaxing. It feels very spacious. Totally different than how it felt when we bought the place.
At my condo downtown, we only had a vanity yay big for both of us, so this was huge.
Having the extra space means less fighting.
From start to finish, it took us about 7 months, which is surprisingly fast for the scope of work that we did, but it really helps to have someone working in the industry to push things along.
Who was passionate about getting out of a 500 square foot downtown condo and commuting 3 hours both ways. So that'll really speed up a process.
Renovating the whole house at the same time was super intense, especially for me trying to figure out paint colors, light fixtures, hardware for so many different rooms all at the same time. I learned a lot about how to streamline that process and how to reuse the same hardware in different spaces and still make it feel like a unique space by maybe switching up the paint color, switching up the light fixtures, but reusing things wherever you can.
I think we more than exceeded our original expectations. I think that this home came together and better than we could have initially imagined. I mean, it went from doodles to reality, and in the process we had a lot of fun, and we're extremely excited on how it turned out.
Even though parts of it were very stressful, I think we would both do it all over again in a heartbeat.
Oh, I'd do it over again 100 times, but I'm thankful that I don't have to, and it's only once.